Hello and welcome to our 8th video in our mod tool tutorial series. Today I'm going to tell you about army units, military units upgrades, starting armies, missiles and environment degradation. So let's jump right into the Army Units Editor. As you can see, Army Units Editor consists of one list of units. Here, for now, it is empty because in our default empty scenario there are no units. So let me add some. First of all, you can decide which type of units you are going to add to your scenario. There are 3 types of units in the game: land units, naval units, and air units. As you may imagine, naval units can move only on water and international water provinces. Land units can move on both land and water provinces, but on water they are highly ineffective. And air units can fly around on the whole map, and they are exactly the same in terms of effectiveness. So let me add an example land unit. After clicking the button, a special unit details window will open. You can of course enter its name and its description. So let me call this unit infantry, and we can choose an icon for our unit. So let me scroll down here and choose an infantry icon. On level 1, because we can also upgrade our units, but that is done in a separate editor. And here below the icon dropdown, you can set up production time in days. So for example 25 days to create one infantry unit. And here under production time there is development army unit level, which is the basic level of our unit, and it is important for upgrading them as well. Next we have money production cost, action points, and all resources production cost of this unit. And of course manpower production cost, because your units are going to need special resource of manpower. After setting up the basic production costs of your unit, you need to select a model and battle model for your unit. The first model is for the map of the game, and the second model is for the theater window. And underneath models, you can set up reload time, which is the rate of fire of your unit, its base attack and its base defense. And you can also set up a special water battle model. So for example, for my infantry unit, I'm going to set up here animated soldier. Oh, that's for the theater, so no. Here, soldier world model. And for my battle model, I'm going to set up here animated soldier theater model. And for the water battle model, I'm going to set up animated landing craft soldier theater model. Each unit has its own speed on land, on water, and in the theater. On land and water, the speed is measured in unity units, and in the theater, it is measured in tiles per day. Apart from setting up basic production costs, you are also going to need to set up maintenance cost of the unit. They can be 0, of course, but I recommend setting up some maintenance costs for your units so that maintaining army is not free. You also need to set up war losses for your unit, and country war losses will increase by this number here after each infantry unit dies in battle. You can also set up a firepower value, that is, a value hidden from the players, to measure the relative firepower or battle potential of a selected unit, and this value is used for balancing purposes and used in AI behavior. And you can of course set up health or hit points for our unit. And here there is the button to open the curve editor, and here you can set up the damage curve due distance. So that curve can set up how much damage this unit will take depending on its distance. So let me add here some value, for example distance of 10 tiles, the damage will decrease by 10. And for distance of 0 tiles, the damage will be the same. And now we have linear progression. With each tile between the units that are attacking each other in the battle theater, the damage will decrease by 1, up to 10 cell distance. And you can also set up starting accuracy for your unit in the range of, for example, 0 to 200. And here underneath accuracy you can set up soundtrack for your units. And also the model of the unit on the water. So let me quickly set up all of those values here. Let's put the basic development level of the unit at 0. Let's produce it for 250 money. Let's produce it for 300 action points. And in my mod, first resource are provisions. So I think infantry needs a lot of provisions. So for example, 150. Second resource is water. I believe infantry also needs a lot of water, so 150. And third resource is fuels. So I don't think infantry needs a lot of fuel, so I'm going to leave it at 0. And also I can set up here maintenance costs. So maintenance cost for this unit will be in money. Well, soldiers need to be paid, so let's put here 5. Action points maintenance, probably low, so 1. And of course they need to eat and they need to drink. So let's give here 3 and 3 per month. And if the production cost of fuels is 0, let's also set up here maintenance cost of fuels at 0. And war losses for our infantry unit, well, they are the basic unit, so only 1 war losses for each infantry unit. Manpower production cost, they probably need a lot, so 1000 people will create 1 infantry unit. Firepower, relative firepower, I will set it at 10. Basic health of the unit, let's set it at 50. Reload time in days, they will shoot once per 8 days. And their base attack will be 10 and their base defense will be 10. So that are pretty low values here. And their starting accuracy will be, well, let's say 75. And now I can click the create button, which is very important. And the infantry unit was added here to our units list. Let me add quickly some other unit, like chopper, to show you how units interact with each other. Because now that we have 2 units, if I select one of them, you will find here in this combat parameters section of our Army Units Editor some additional input fields. And you can edit them by double-clicking on your unit here and opening its edit window again. And here to the right, you are going to find the same type of unit as you are editing and all other types of units. And you can set up bonuses and penalties for your infantry unit against other infantry units or against any other type of units. So I believe infantry against other infantry will have no bonuses or penalties, but it will indeed have friendly fire for them. But against choppers, I think our infantry is going to have some penalties, but there is no risk of friendly fire against choppers. And also, our infantry unit, when supporting other units in our army against choppers, I think they are maybe good spotters, so I will give them the support accuracy value of 10, and that means that when our infantry unit is supporting other unit in the battle against choppers, the accuracy of the supported unit will be increased by 10. And now I can hit update, and as you can see here, for the selected infantry unit, combat parameters were modified and are shown here. And that is basically how you edit each unit in the game, and you can create as many as you would like. So now, when we know how to create army units, let me go to the military units upgrades. This is a very simple editor here that lets you create some additional versions of each unit. So let me select the infantry unit here, and as you can see, there are already 2 default upgrades here, Super Infantry and Cyborg Army. And its unit development level is 1 and its unit development level is 2. And as you can see, our infantry development level, basic, standard level, is 0. So those levels always have to be different from each other so that you can differentiate between different military units levels. And when upgrading the unit, you can only edit its name, its description, its icon. For example, here we can set up infantry level 2 icon, and you can provide its new model. But you cannot edit its statistics, you cannot edit its parameters. That you should do with effects when upgrading this unit. For example, in projects. If you set up a project that upgrades a unit, you can also set up some effects in this project that increases its statistics. And you can create upgrades for units that are default upgrades for every country in the world. And also you can select certain countries. And as you can see, after selecting, for example, the Snake Empire, my infantry does not have any upgrades here. Because here, this window is now active, this section. And here, if you add new upgrade, it will create standard new level at -1. I'm going to increase it to 3, because it has to be a different level from other infantry upgrades, like the default ones here, level 1 and level 2. And so now my infantry unit has its own default levels of upgrades, and for the Snake Empire, it has its own unique upgrade level. And if you wish for a unit to be upgraded to this specific level, I recommend, for example, setting up the project for this country, and in the effect upgrading the unit level to set the desired level of the unit that you want to upgrade. Okay, so that is how you create army units, and that is how you upgrade them or create upgrade levels for them. So now let me go to the starting armies editor and show you how to create some basic starting armies. Let's go, for example, here and select the Snake Empire country and add a new army group. And now there is a new army in this country, and after selecting it, it has a default 1 unit of the first type in your army units editor. And here is the list of all the units that you have created in your army units editor, and you can simply type in the number of the units that you would like this army to have. So for example, the starting army of the Snake Empire will have 10 infantry units and 5 chopper units. And here you can choose from this drop-down the province that this army will be in. So for example, let me choose this province number 26 here for the starting army. And now when I zoom in, here I can find the model of my infantry unit and the number of units in this army. So 10 infantry, 5 chopper. We can of course later use the infrastructure editor to increase the size of our model on map and to move the army spawn point into some better position so that it is in a different place than our province name. And let me show you another example. Let me zoom in back here on our capital province and create a new army group. And as you can see, now I have created a new model of a unit that is also bigger because I have already increased the scale of our army on this province in the infrastructure editor. And so I can now select this army here and increase its number to 25 infantry units and add also 10 choppers. And now its army unit count is 35. Alright, so when setting up your starting army composition of the world, you need to go through each country and set it up individually. In the starting armies editor, you can also add or create random generals. But we are going to cover generals in a later video. And also note that when creating starting armies, if you have created a naval unit, like for example corvette, and now I go to the starting armies editor and select Snake Empire and add new army group. Here I cannot see my corvette because this army is now on the land and there cannot be a naval unit on the land province. But if I, for example, move my starting army from province 34 to province 30, that is here, and select again this army, you can see that now the corvette unit type is available here. And now I can give this country, the Snake Empire, 10 corvette units and reduce its infantry to 0. So now this country will start with an army here on its national waters with 10 corvette units. Alright, so that is how you create army units, upgrade them, and set up starting armies for your countries. Now let's go to the missiles and environment editor, and let me show you how to nuke someone. Here, after opening the missiles warfare editor, you will have 3 options: setting up attacks, setting up alert states, and setting up the environment effects. Let's start with attacks. By clicking this button here, you open this top panel editor, and here you can set up the starting missile potential, basically missile count, the number of ammunition your country has. Let's set it up at 100. Default silo cooldown, that means how often one missile silo can shoot, and missile silos are buildings. So let's for example say I want my missile silos to shoot once every 80 days. Default silo offensive range, that is range in units on the map of your silo. Let's say that it will be 150. And default defensive silo range. So this is the range of our anti-missile shield, the range in which enemies' attacks will be intercepted and we will be saved from them. And it probably should be lower than our offensive range, so let's set it up at 100. When deciding to attack someone with a missile, you can choose the deadliness of this attack and its radius. And here you can choose icons for those 2 options here. And here is the remembrance time value, which basically means how long the game will remember if someone was attacked with a missile. That is important because when a country remembers that it was attacked, it has a casus belli against its attacker. And now we can simply click this Create Missile Attack button, and we have created our first missile. We can of course set up its name, so let me call it a nuke. We can set up its basic deadliness level and radius level. We can also set up a required project for this attack to be available to the player, or AI. For now we don't have any projects, but we will do it later. And here we can set up the required alert level. Alert states are edited here, and that basically means which alert state we have to be at for this attack to be available. Default nuclear potential means how much missiles we need to spend to shoot this attack, to fire this attack. So this value here is our default missile potential, and this is the number of rockets we are going to use when firing this attack. So let's say for example 25. And nuclear potential modifier means how many more rockets we are going to use when increasing the deadliness of our attack. So let's say 5. And here is the default range and default blast range of our attack. And it should be pretty low, so let's give the default range of our attack a value of 20 and blast range of 5. And the range modifier allows us to change that range here by using this slider of a radius of an attack. And here we have the world environment degradation input field, where we can input a value of, for example, 25. So each nuke that we are going to successfully launch and use in an attack will increase the global environment degradation by 25, which is pretty intense. And more about global environment degradation in the environment section. And here at the bottom of your missile attack setup, you can configure all of those effects. Here there are effects for blast, for fallout, and for the sender country. Sender is an attacker. Blast is a smaller radius in which the most intense effects should happen. And fallout is the wider radius in which other effects can happen. But you can get creative here and set up virtually any effects available for those effect types of province, country to country, and country and province. That means that you could, for example, use a rocket to spawn new military units for your country. You can basically create a missile attack that is also a halo jump. You can get really creative here with this editor and with the variety of effects that we can set up for our missile attacks. And since we have already covered how to configure effects, I'm not going to go into more details with it. Let's go to the alert states and let me explain what they are and how they are set up. Here is the alert states editor, and alert states are basically levels of defensive and offensive preparedness in your country. You can add as many levels as you'd like, and the country is always at one of those levels, and they can be increased or decreased depending on various requirements. Here you can set up the cooldown to lower alert state. After increasing it, you need to wait, for example, 65 days before you can lower it again. And so, let me add a new alert state level, or two, to show you how they work. When an alert state is active, its effects are in place. Here you can configure any one country effect that you wish. And also, each alert state has its own requirements and costs. All of those requirements are political system dependent. So you set them up independently for democracy, authoritarianism, and totalitarianism. You can also set up your own custom localization keys for the names of your active alert states, cooldowns, and deactivation of alert states. And now let's go to the environment editor, and let me show you how environment works in Realpolitiks II. So after clicking this button here, you will have two another options: region environment and world environment. And make no mistake, region environment means province environment. And when selecting this button here, you can set up various degradation levels in your province. But first, you can set up the default degradation reduction, and that is the value in which the level of degradation in province will increase or decrease each interval you set up here. So for example, if I set up here 25 days, each 25 days my province environmental degradation will decrease by 3. And I recommend setting up some default degradation reduction, because that way you can mitigate the player's desire to develop their country and introduce projects that increase the degradation in their provinces. And here on this list you can select various levels of degradation that are available for a province. For now we have only one level, but you can also create a second one. And the first level here is always the lowest level, and each next level is the higher level by default. And after selecting this button here, you can input a name here, for example level 0, and you can set up the threshold level, which is this value of environment province degradation, which has to be met in order for this level to be reached. So the first level will have threshold level of 0, and the second level will have threshold level, for example, of 100. And after selecting the level, you can also set up effects for it, and those are one province effects. So basically you can create here various levels of degradation and set up effects for them. And after meeting certain threshold of your province degradation, those effects will come into play. And with time, hopefully, the degradation will be reduced and lower levels will come into play with their less severe effects. And it works exactly the same for world environment, but you can also set up the default degradation reduction for the whole world, and you can also set up the intervals in which those changes will be applied. And you can also create various levels of degradation and set up their effects, but these are one country effects instead of one province effects. So these effects will apply to each country in the world, which is very important. And that is how army units, military units upgrades, starting armies, missiles and environment works in Realpolitiks II. Thank you for listening and see you next time.